Welcome back, and it's time for our first segment in Breakfast Show, and in it we will be talking about Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi, al-Nasir Salah ad-Din Yusuf ibn Ayyub, known as Saladin, who was born in 1137 and died on March 1193, and he was the first Sultan of Egypt and Syria and the founder of the Ayyubi dynasty. He was a great warrior, and one of his main and greatest achievements is fighting the Crusades and achieving the first peace treaty with them, as well as, of course, the retrieval of Jerusalem back to Arab hands. And to shed more light on that topic, we're happy to have with us in the studio Egyptologist, tour guide, as well as lecturer, Mr. Bassam Shamaa. Good morning, Bassam.
Good morning to you, Madi.
Good morning to you. And talking about Nasir Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi, and I always remember that we used to study all about him in school in the past. And maybe what makes me really feel sad that nowadays we're not studying some important names in our history that enough. That sometimes, for example, unfortunately, when we watch a movie or drama, they have to add something, and each one has to put his own touch. That sometimes he destroy the real image, the beautiful image of our leaders, historical leaders. And because our new generation, maybe some of them, they are not aware of the real history, so they do not recognize, and sometimes we lose interest in some names, that these names are really very, very important. So how do you read this? You agree with me?
I agree with you 150%.
Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi in particular.
Oh, I agree with you 150% when it comes to Yusuf Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi and other characters as well. For example, if we mention Salah ad-Din, we need to mention, first of all, who do you read when you read about Yusuf Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi? His first name, he was born Yusuf. So many people know him as Salah ad-Din. But you would be amazed to read, for example, in the ancient documents, that he was Salah ad-Dunya wa ad-Din. Here is another title. Salah ad-Din, born Yusuf, he was born in a citadel. And what I'm trying to say, commenting on your comment, is if you want to make a movie, if you want to make a number of episodes about a character like Yusuf Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi, then his life is already a drama. You are in no need to put any of the acting or any of the extra salt and pepper, if you know what I mean, or any of the mistakes like in the movie of Yusuf Shaheen. But I will mention Salah ad-Din, and everybody knows Salah ad-Din. Maybe we don't know many things about him, and that's why I'm here today, to tell you many things that people perhaps don't know about him, because in his character there is a great deal of small little things, but huge if you know it. For example, what if I tell you that there are some names which influence the history of the nation of Islam? Imad ad-Din Zenki, Nur ad-Din Mahmud, wow, Yusuf ibn Tashfin, we are talking Andalusia and Western Africa, and so on and so forth, names like these. Muhammad ibn al-Qasim, Blad al-Sind, the Sind nations in Asia. He opened it when he was still young. So I'm reading Baha'u'ddin ibn Shaddad, and that's what I'm advising everybody. If you want to read more into the, because Baha'u'ddin ibn Shaddad was living right beside Salah ad-Din. And he wrote in details, and he says in his writing, I was there when this event happened. And if he heard it from somebody, I heard it from somebody. So now I'm in front, I am reading a man who can be a pure documentary gentleman. Yusuf, when he was, a kid who was born in a citadel, what do you expect? He's got to be a genius in military, of course. But the interesting thing is that his father, Najm ad-Din Ayyub, he was born in a place called Dawin. Now, Dawin is at the end frontiers and limits of Azerbaijan. So Azerbaijan is a far area, if you like, from Egypt, but you will learn that there was a battle that took place in Egypt, that before Yusuf Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi becomes the famous leader of the Islamic world, he was involved in this battle station in a place called Bain al-Babain, between the two gates or between the two doors, which is about 10 miles south of Minya. Now, perhaps very little is known about this battle, which you can market as the appearance again and again and the reappearance of the name of Salahuddin as a soldier, as a warrior.
Was that before the time he came to Egypt to help Shawar against Dorgan?
This is exactly more or less the times that we are talking about, because as you know, before he becomes the Sultan of the Muslims, and of course he was the king.
Tell us please about his arrival to Egypt first.
Sure. I mean, because he was given, he was taken in the army, and he was actually ordered in a way, because at that time there would be the big boss, the big military leader, and he will be giving orders, I would like you to come with me in this battle station. And he was said and told to be accompanying the army with that. So that means what? That means that from when you are still young or a young caliber in the army, you are being, in a way, I don't want to say prepared to become that amazing, because you can prepare a character, you can lead the horse to water, but you cannot let it drink. So you can prepare a person to be this person, but this person doesn't want to, so it doesn't become this. But I'll tell you an interesting story about this gentleman. We know about Yusuf Salahuddin many things, but perhaps we don't know that he was a very tender gentleman. He was a sensitive gentleman. And he was a knight. He was a noble man. And the very famous story of the child of 3 months of age who was abducted from the tent, and his mother became, she was from Al-Farinja, she was from the Crusaders, and from the side of the camp of your enemy. So she cried and she screamed to the point that her screams reached the kings of the Crusaders, the leaders. Why are you crying, mother? Well, I lost my baby. He's 3. What happened? The Muslims took him. And that was those business of entering, some parties will enter into the tent, take men, and they will sell them in markets. That was like a system at that time. So, so what was the advice of the kings and the leaders of the Crusaders? What did they tell the mother? In Arabic, إنه رحيم القلب.
He's tender-hearted.
He's tender-hearted. He's got this business of being a sensitive person, and he's a good man. Go to him. What? Your enemy, your nemesis, your long-lasting fighting enemy. The army that you are going to fight for less than 200 years. This is the number of the years of the Crusaders, with all the campaigns and all the waves coming in and out, defeated and out, defeated and out, and so on. Less than 200 years. And you're telling me to go to him? Well, of course he's going to capture me, probably will get my head off. But she went, and she met the Muslims, and they heard her story, and they took her to the Sultan. They took her to Yusuf Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. He met her, he heard the story, his eyes started to, there was kind of a little bit of tears. He felt tender-hearted, as you mentioned. He's sensitive. He said, go and get the child. They went, he sold. So he brought money and he gave it to his soldiers. Go and buy back the child. Back, and it is, he didn't sit, he kept standing until the baby was back. She put him in her chest, she embraced her baby back. For 1 hour she gave him a suckle, as Baha'u'ddin Shaddad is telling us in details, because the baby of course would have been hungry by that time. So she gave him the suckle, and he ordered her a horse to take her back to the Crusaders' camp.
So now you are talking about a leader that we really, a leader who knows exactly how to gather people. And you mentioned something very, very important about the mistakes, things that they wanted us to know about him that are really mistakes, real mistakes. What are these mistakes?
Well, first of all,
because from the movie also we can understand that he has a very kind heart. He used to deal with all people, Christians, Muslims, the same. He used to take care of the, the Easter, for example. But you still you believe there are some mistakes that we know
huge
about.
mistakes. Well, first of all, he was, as you said, he was a nice man, but he didn't go to Richard in his tent. That was an addition.
This is okay.
When he went and he, they didn't meet. Salahuddin al-Ayyubi did not meet Richard I, or Richard the Lion-Hearted, as he was titled later. Not one time.
At all.
Not one time. So this business of them, they are going to play chess with each other at the end of the movie, which was introduced by Yusuf Shaheen, that was a big mistake. Number two, Al-Awwam Isa, or Isa Al-Awwam, both are right, by the way, was a Muslim. In the movie, he was not. But he actually lost his life in one of his endeavors, in one of his great work. His wife, the widow, Salma al-Bakriya. If I was in Yusuf Shaheen's shoes, I would take this lady and put her in the movie to tell the world something.
What?
Salma al-Bakriya, the death of her husband and being a martyr in the great army of Muslims at that time, they saw her trying to learn how to swim. What are you doing, Salma? I'm trying to swim because I would like to be a martyr like my husband. So here is a lady who is training herself to become a soldier.
What did she mean by this? What did she mean by this?
Because he was a clever swimmer, so
because
she wanted to die the same way he died?
Of course, he was Al-Awwam, he was titled.
No, tell me, yes, I know, but tell me the real story from you. I want to hear, why did she think of this? And the point is that
so
they allowed her as well at that age. This
go.
is another important part.
She was proud of her husband being a martyr. She wanted to perform in the army. She wanted to do something positive in the army. She didn't wait for anybody. She is going to train herself to become a swimmer.
And a woman, and to be accepted.
Sure.
This
and that I would send a message is that women played an important role in the army since the days of the Prophet Sayyidina Muhammad, peace be unto him, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Another thing, when he died, and that's a message to all leaders in the world, not only to the leaders of Islamic nation. Baha'u'ddin Shiddat telling us that his sons and daughter, how much did they inherit? How would you think with me now? Think with me, Sultan, King, Abil Muzaffar, Yusuf, Ibn Nijm al-Din Ayyub, Ibn Shadi, Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, all the title here. How much would he leave? The Sultan of the Muslims, the man who freed Al-Quds al-Sharif.
Something that cannot be compared to money. I think the repetition.
47 dirham and 1 golden tyrant dinar. 1 golden tyrant dinar. And by the way, the tyrant dinar, Tyre, from Tyre, Sur, is less in value than the Egyptian gold dinar. 1.47. He didn't leave a land. He didn't leave a palace. If you go to Syria, you're not going to find a palace of Salah ad-Din. He didn't leave a garden. He didn't leave a village. He was, as he was explained, a malik, a king, and the word malik in Arabic means to possess, from mulk. So he was a malik who did not malik. He was a king who did not possess.
No possession.
No possession of the possessor. And that is how he was described.
Now, I'd like to ask you about Saladin in terms of being in Egypt, because it was quite interesting that when he came, it was the time of the Fatimids, and they were Shiites, and Saladin was Sunni. For a Sunni Muslim to become the vizier in a Shiite country, that was quite hard. Would you explain to us that, please?
I think also Yusuf was a very smart gentleman. He was his tactics, his political tactics, as well as military, because you would hear about his political tactics before his military tactics when you read about him. And he was, I think he also gave the chances to people. Remember, the Egyptians did not swallow Shiism. The Egyptians didn't like Shiites or becoming a Shiite. Oh yes, they lived under the rule for a long time. But look at Al-Azhar al-Sharif, built in the days of Shiites and then turned to be one of the great minarets of Sunni Muslims around the world. So Egyptians probably took what they wanted from Shiites, as smart as the Egyptian nation and the Egyptian people, like the sweets and the stuff and the celebrations and so on. But they didn't take Shiism, and that's what I said some some time ago when I said don't get, because people were saying, oh, the Shiites are back and there will be Iranian tourism and so on. I said, bring the Iranian tourism as much as you want. I say, do not get terrified. Shiism is never going to be an Egyptian thing.
But he even managed to convince Al-Adid with himself, and the Adid was the Shiite caliphate. So he must have had incredible characteristics that that the caliph will think that he is an asset despite being
a Sunni or being
yeah.
a leader. But remember also, I'm with you with that, but remember at the time, the Fatimid Empire was getting a little bit weaker and weaker by the time and by the day. So if you want, history has got its lines, has got its ups and it's got its downs. And it seems that that time, all over, the whole over scene is that the Fatimids are falling. And by the way, empires fall sometimes because of the political weakness of the leader, and sometimes other things as well. For example, if the river Nile didn't come, if the flooding stopped, that will lead the nation to poverty. That will weaken an empire. And finally, I will tell you something about Salah ad-Din that I really like. And that's another message for leaders. He gave a chance to a young gentleman from Damascus. Now, as a leader, and all the people around you, you are choosing this gentleman, this young gentleman. He was a coppersmith, but it seems that he was a genius in chemistry as well. And at that time, Muslim army was right in front of them. 3 huge towers made out of wood and iron. And this wood was soaked in vinegar and leather and mud. And by this, if you throw an arrow with fire, it's not going to affect nothing with this tower. This tower, it was described to can be able to hold at its surface 500 soldiers and a catapult, a manjaniq, which means that you are talking about a moving citadel, if you like, 3 of them. And the Muslim army, that's it. They are going to enter, they are going to use those 3 towers, and that will be the end. That's laser beams, that's huge tanks, that is 3 huge weapons that you cannot stand in front of. So can anybody help, guys? Salah ad-Din is taking counsel from the people around him. Here is a good character of a leader. Take counsel from the people. Everybody says this and that, and oh, no answer. There is no solution for that huge problem. Until this amazing man from Damascus, the young gentleman, came and he said, I need this chemical, I need this fluid, I will mix it. They brought him the fluids, he mixed it, he put it in containers, he threw the first container and it burned the whole tower. 1 hour and the second container hit the second tower and it ended it. 3 towers were fired in 1 day just by you as a leader giving trust to a young gentleman who, when he was offered by Salah ad-Din and by the people, when he was offered all sorts of gifts and all sorts of money and this and that, he said, no, I just do it لوجه Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for God I do this. This story is mentioned and it's documented in Baha'u'ddin ibn Shaddad, the man who was sitting right beside Salah ad-Din. So that gives you what? That gives you that he's a leader, but I am not going to do everything my own point of view. I'm stubborn. I'm not listening to any counsels around me. Thing that I don't know about, I will bring somebody and he will
I think this is,
help.
this is one of the characteristics of a successful leader, the delegation, how to bring the right person, the right time, in the right position. And definitely we know that talking about the military backside of Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi and talking about the most important battles. And I think this is interesting to learn more about it.
This is a good question. Why? Because Al-Hittin, the famous Qurun Hittin, the famous battle that led a few days or weeks afterwards of the entry of Al-Quds. Remember, Yusuf Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi with the Muslim army entered Al-Quds al-Sharif on the 27th of Rajab in the Hijra calendar, Friday. Now, remember this day, 27th of Rajab? It's the same day of the memory of Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj, the ascension of the Prophet to heavens. So it's interesting to see how history works like this and how faith. Interestingly enough, you will notice that after the huge, first of all, the Muslim army has got something called the swift attacks. Swift attacks is not a whole battle station as you know it. It will be a platoon or something, and it will hit somewhere and then back very quickly, very swiftly. And then from the other side, and from this side. And that will confuse your enemy. That will say, oh, from where am I getting this attack now? So that confused. Number two, in one of the battles, they blew fire in the grass. Now the Crusaders are coming from Europe, and the heat of the fire, and the horses, and the thirst. And then he stopped them from going to the water. So here is a man using the water as a strategic weapon. We were talking on the 10th of Ramadan, 6th of October, how you used water as a strategic weapon in destroying Khat Barleaf or Barleaf line. Same idea, but in different ways. Now, the victory took place, thank goodness for that. Captures, the king of the Crusader was captured, Ernat was called like this, Renaud de Chatillon, the bloody man who killed the Muslims, all those were captured. They are thirsty. They enter. Salah ad-Din gets in, happy with his people, happy of the victory, because it's an amazing victory. So he noticed that the king of the Crusaders is very thirsty. So what do you do? What do you do with your capture? What do you do with the man who just put his sword on the neck of your brother or your friend? Your brother here, I'm not talking the brother of Salah ad-Din. So Salah ad-Din orders to give him gullab. What's gullab? Gullab is rose water. Rose water given to your enemy, to the king of your enemy, the leader. Noble man, as we mentioned. And it was icy. It's mentioned like this in the document, muthallag. Gullab muthallag. What? Now remember, this is not only you being tender and not only being a nobleman, but remember, Arabs, and he is a Kurd, Muslims at that time, there was this tradition. If I give my enemy water or food, I give him safety. So you're not going to be executed. So Salah ad-Din mentions kings do not kill kings. Here is one of the proverbs. Here is one of the slogans that Salah ad-Din would mention in front of his captured enemy. Now, remember, on the other side, oh, he was not that easy as well. Oh, he was a tough gentleman, and he's got to be tough to lead a war like this, which lasts all that time. And also, when he thought that the years of battle took place even after Hittin and even after the entry of Al-Quds al-Sharif and cleaning the Al-Aqsa Mosque, oh, there were more battles and more places to get in. But you have to think about your tired people. You have to think about how your enemy is bringing 3 huge armies from Europe. Richard the Lionheart, Frederick Barbarossa, who died, the elderly man who died, and that's why his army went back, and Philippe Auguste. So now we now are talking about 3 huge armies coming. So now we rest a little bit, relax a little bit, and we make that treaty that you mentioned, and then became Al-Ramla Treaty, the famous Al-Ramla Treaty. Now, even in the Al-Ramla Treaty, even in this peace treaty, he didn't meet Richard I. He didn't meet Richard. Al-Adil Abu Bakr went and represented the Muslims there. But Salah ad-Din did not meet Richard the Lionheart. Al-Awwam Isa, or Isa Al-Awwam, was a Muslim, and definitely there was no Virginia. Because in the movie, there was the only Virginia in history is Layla Fawzi, the actress.
Well, unfortunately, the time of the segment is up, but we'd like to thank you very much, Mr. Bassam, for this insightful view of and light about Saladin. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my dear.
Thank you. And we'll be back after the break, so stay with us for more coming up on Breakfast Show.